All right, Julie, it's a whole new season, a whole new approach, a whole new think tank of three. I mean, first of all, it's you and me visually.
Here we are. Like, whoa, we're not AI, we're real.
We have to look the part.
Yeah.
We can't just be the voices. We now have to look the part. So now when you say, I wish you could see Reisha's reaction to blah, 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 blah. Now you can see Reisha's reaction to blah, 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 blah.
For better or worse. And what's that saying? A face made for podcasting?
Oh, what is it? You got a face for radio? You don't have a face for radio. We look good, gosh darn it. And I'm just going to live with that and say that and accept it and know it. We look good.
Well, either way, we're here and you can see us. And we have a whole new format this season.
It is exciting. We've even got some new exciting guests. We're going to revisit some guests that we've had in the past, which is great. But we've also got especially one really different guest. We have our first male guest on the show this season. That's really exciting because believe it or not, he's really bringing some serious oomph to the table in a positive way. It's fantastic.
Yeah, can't wait to dive in. But let's also show you our new show open, because now that we're on camera, we have visuals, we have music, and we have video and a new show open.
Can't wait for all of it.
All right, let's do this. Think Tank of Three starts now. Welcome to Think Tank of Three. I'm Julie Holton here with my wonderful, beautiful I'd say in person, but on video, like in real life, we can see her, my co-host, Reischea Canidate-Kapasouris. We are so excited to kick off our new season.
Indeed, a new season. And you will also happen to notice one of the Think Tank of Three members is not with us, and that's Audria Fink. Everything is fine. She just needed to do some stuff for herself. She needed to take the time and put herself first. She needed to put her oxygen mask on first. And that meant she needed to take a step back away from the Think Tank of Three. So we are in full support of Audria having to go do you, Audria, because we still love you.
Yes, Audria, one of our original founders of the podcast 5 years ago, if you can believe that. So after 5 years, it was time for a change. And actually, we blogged for 2 years prior to those 5 years. So this has been almost a decade for Audria of pouring into our Think Tank of Three community. And I just absolutely love, Reish, that Audria is taking the advice we give on our podcast, which is to constantly be assessing and reassessing priorities in life and what fills our cups and how we want to spend our time and that whole balance fantasy of work and life. And this is a passion project for us. It always has been. To date, we don't make money off of this podcast, although we're actually looking as we start a whole new season to perhaps make some changes, perhaps, get some funding, get some donations to actually grow this podcast to impact more people. So more on that to come, but just want to say how much we absolutely love Audria. Yes. She will always be one of our thirds. And
we'll be talking to her. We're going to be talking to her in the future.
Oh yeah. She can't get off that easy. We will be checking in and having her report back. And this time she'll get to be a guest.
That's right.
Sharing her wisdom that's actually what I think I'll miss the most with not having her is just her, she just has always brought so much to this show. It's been wonderful. But we do have some surprises in store. So moving forward, the three in the Think Tank of Three will be our guest. Yes. And so we're excited. We're not adding another co-host. We are going to tap into the hive of our tribe and bring in brand new, exciting guests with a lot to share. Reish, we've got an interesting season coming up.
We absolutely do. We've got our first male guest on the Think Tank of Three, white male guest talking
with a mohawk.
DEI. Yes, with a mohawk talking DEI. Can you picture that? That in and of itself brings you to the table because it's like, okay, I got to see what this guy is talking about. He's talking great stuff. We've got women who, of course, starting business. We have an amazing young woman who has been starting, buying, selling companies since she was 23 years old. And
Yes.
she's,
She
I'm in
has
awe of her.
founded and exited more than 20 businesses, and now she's working to help others. And this one is going to be so fascinating, I think, for so many women, because Reach, how often do we hear here on this show women who are successful in their own right, who say that they're still just not sure, or they still haven't made it, or they still like their business isn't worth anything to someone else. And
Right.
and Christine McDaniel actually shares a story, not actually two stories, about two different women just in like the last few weeks of, our recording time, where they thought their business wasn't worth anything and they were able to sell it for several $100,000 each. And so I really love the message there, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, the message of knowing what you're worth, knowing your value, and not discounting it. So that's an incredible episode.
Absolutely. We also will be speaking with friend of the show, Michelle Hutchinson, talking about that balance and finding that balance and understanding when you need to reassess and readjust and find out how to help feed your soul, and take a step back maybe, or dive into that other thing that is really calling you to it. Once again, as we reach back and talk about what Audrey needed to do, this kind of falls into line with that of recognizing I have to make some changes here. Something is off. My chemistry is not functioning the way it needs to be, because I need to make some adjustments within my life. So that, once again, it's always uplifting and calming to talk with
No, I
Michelle.
just texted Michelle this morning. I need more of you in my life. Like, when can we see you? But all of you will be able to see her in an episode coming up. And I know it's one already that I will replay, because like you said, it's knowing when to give ourselves time to rest and not just grind all the time. And I know that
Yes.
that's something that I really struggle to find balance with. We also have a guest, Reish, if you recall, one of the first recordings we did not too long ago as we were preparing for this new season is with a young mom and wife and business owner who had a very unconventional journey up until this point. And I really love how Tracy Spalding talks about the expectations we create for our lives and
Mhm.
letting go of those expectations and adjusting and reinventing and being okay or more than okay when things don't go as planned. And so
Absolutely.
she also is just really an incredible guest, a lot of insight from a young business owner and mom who's balancing a lot.
Yes, yes. So this is a wonderful season that we have upcoming. We don't need to tell you everybody and everything. Keep coming back for more, but definitely wanted to be sure to give you highlights of what is to come, and of course, Julie and me.
You're
Because
stuck with us. Reach, I do have to say though, we've shared a lot of like the positive, uplifting, and we've got a lot of that in this season. There's also some really controversial topics that we
yes,
tackle. And because we are not, it's like we're kind of forcing ourselves, as you say, to sit in the discomfort. I was actually just working on a podcast talking about some really uncomfortable issues, and I was kind of like wiggling in my seat a little bit as I was working on this. And I think that's a good thing. In
yes,
fact, I'll say Dave came into my office no fewer than like 3 or 4 times to talk about what he was hearing us talk about on the podcast. And so, when your partner comes in because he's
yep,
overhearing an episode, like that is what this is designed to do. This is
absolutely.
designed to get all of you to have these conversations with us, with your communities. We want to hear from you. What topics do you have that you want us to tackle? There have been a lot of really big things and small things that maybe go unnoticed but have big impact that have been happening in our world. So what matters to you? What challenges do you face? What problems do you want the think tank of 3 to talk about and maybe solve by the end of the episode? But we want to hear from you.
Or at the very least, just open up the door for a safe space of communication. And what we mean by a safe space of communication is to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. Now, this isn't a place for hate, this isn't a place to spew ugly, but this is a place to have a legitimate conversation of why or what we see, what we're anticipating, what we hope necessarily doesn't happen on the negative side of things, so like
Right.
one of the episodes that she was alluding to is the fact that we have a woman who's going to be talking about the banning of books. I don't care what side of the political aisle you sit on. Banning books is never a good idea, because all you're doing is trying to limit the knowledge of minds, and limiting knowledge of minds is never, ever a good idea. You want creative, thoughtful, empathetic minds that can help make this world a better place to be, especially with the think tank of three.
Yeah, Risha, I also want to hear from people about, like some topics that maybe we haven't explored yet,
Mhm.
but we've thought about exploring. And frankly, some of these topics, like Roe v. Wade, for example, I know you and I are both very opinionated on this topic, and we want to make room to hear opinions. But also, it can become difficult for us sometimes when there's a side we really don't agree with. Like, we're not a news organization.
Nope.
You and I have both been there. We've worked for those, and we had a responsibility and obligation at the time to air all viewpoints and facts. We don't have that same obligation now. And some of these things like Roe v. Wade are really impacting women in a very serious way.
Right.
And I know that Rish, you and I feel this need to have our voices be heard, and we want our audience to be heard. And so if there's a topic that is not being talked about and should be talked about, let us know.
Absolutely.
Because these are all on our agenda, and we are excited to dive into these topics with you, the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything in between. It's going to
Always
be a fun
respectful.
season.
Always respectful. That's the key here as well. No matter what the topic is, we always address it, come at it from a respectful place. And listen, yeah, Julie and I, for the most part, I think we do tend to see eye to eye on most things. But, we're probably possibly going to have someone that we don't necessarily agree with 100%. But I also want us to get back to being able to do that, being able to disagree with someone, but still have that conversation and say, I didn't think about it from that perspective. It doesn't necessarily change my mind, but it makes me think a little bit more. And that's all we want to do, is do a little more thinking.
Yeah.
Thinking's not illegal yet.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's try to keep it that way.
And we come from different backgrounds. We look different, as people might now be able to see. We live in different parts of the country. We have different circles of friends. We have some commonalities. We both have a child with disabilities, and so that's a commonality we have. So perhaps we'll have more topics on that. But we also have things that just make us different, and different viewpoints. And I think if anything, we want this to be a safe place for people to come to and listen and feel as though you are listening and talking with your girlfriends. I mean, when we first launched this podcast, Rish, kind of before you entered
Before
the
me.
club here, we first launched with just this general idea of wanting to lift women up, rising together. That idea that rising tide lifts all boats. And so that is why we do this without being paid. We do this for fun because we care about what people are going through, and we want to share these stories. We don't pretend to have all the answers, or really any of them. But we have learned a few things. We know that the people in our circles, everyone is constantly learning and growing. And that is the information that we want to share. Rish, I have to I don't know how we haven't talked about this yet, but you have got to tell us about your background. I mean, not to kind of
I
but
know. Well,
I
no
know
one,
the story,
no
and
one,
I've been seeing you with Prince for years,
couple of years now.
but
Yeah, because prior to, there was no video for the rest of the world to see. Yeah, so I love Prince, have loved Prince my whole life. I think that he's without question one of the most amazing, talented, without question, I think, if not the greatest, top three greatest guitarists that our planet was ever graced to experience. Miss him so much, because and then when you look at all the music and all the musicians whose careers he touched, I mean, it's just he's phenomenal. There's no question about it. So it just so happened that in looking for a background for our recording, my husband, who is originally from Canada, now a U.S. citizen, but originally from Canada, prior to our getting married, I had wanted to get married in my hometown, Fresno, California, wake up in my own bed, go and, have our ceremony and all of that. And he had mentioned, well, what about getting married in Canada? And I'm like, no, why would I do that? After the fact, when we were visiting his family in Canada, he takes me to a place called Casa Loma. I was like, well, this is lovely. And he's like, right. And this background is the restaurant at Casa Loma. And on the other side of the Prince portrait is a portrait of the Queen of England, the now late Queen of England. And I walked into, first of all, we drive up to Castle. I'm like, are you kidding? He's like, well, we could have had our wedding and reception here. I'm like, say what? Explaining that outside of, well, why don't we get married in Canada? Because the connection, he never mentioned Casa Loma for a reception.
He didn't tell you Prince would be there.
Tell me Prince would be there. I mean, I will accept that as Prince is at my wedding. Look, I sit with Prince every single day that we record this show. Prince is with me, period. Tell me otherwise.
You know what? I think you need a vow renewal, right? Like, let's do a redo. I want to come.
We hit 15 years this summer, so perhaps that is coming up in the future. I'll tell him, why don't we get that reception that you had mentioned?
Yeah, just just a small reception, you guys and me.
There you go. That's perfect size.
Think of 3 along.
Right there. You will just have a meal, and we'll just sit there at the table, the 3 of us. You can bring Dave.
I mean, Dave or Prince. I mean, he's there, so.
But yeah, that is the story of Prince, who has been in the background ever since we've ever been recording Think Tank of 3. But now you all get to share in it as well as we look on the leather couches. So as much as I would love to say, yeah, this is my living room, so not. This is a restaurant in Canada.
I love it. I love it. And my background will change because I'm not that fancy. Travel. And today I'm trying out a new spot in my office because I'm like, I'm tired of sitting in my stuffy little corner. I'm in Zoom meetings all the time. I'm like, I don't know. Right, here we are.
In your little special room, you've got like the lovely little message in the back. Live the life you've always dreamed of. Be fearless in the face of adversity. Never stop learning. Use your imagination whenever possible. Listen, the fact that I can read that, because lately my life has been all about the glasses. So I'm just impressed that I can read that and I'm not squinting impossibly to see it.
I'm impressed my internet is working so that you can read it, because I tell you what, the technical issues in this, like, you think that both of us live with techies, and yet,
somehow tech issues still exist.
We just blame them. They're not a part of this, but it's their fault anyway.
Put it on them. It makes my life much, much easier to do it that way. But so I'm excited about this upcoming season. I'm excited to be with you again, Julie, as always. And for those of you who've heard me say it before, and sometimes I've even texted it to her, I just need to hear a little bit of Julie, because you walk away after spending some time with Julie Holton and you just feel better about who you are. You just do. So.
Oh, I feel the same about Reish, and hopefully viewers, listeners, you feel the same. Our new format means we're on a new platform. You can find us on YouTube now. Please, I'm not afraid to beg. Please subscribe, whatever platform you're on, do all the things, give us reviews. That is how we play the algorithm game in order to get into more people's ears or eyes. So please, please, please make sure every episode, like the episodes, be a subscriber, and help support the Think Tank of 3. And I'm so excited for this season. It's going to be fun.
I am too. Come on this journey with us. We're going to have fun.
All right. Well, that is all for our intro episode of the Think Tank of Three. Be sure to subscribe on all platforms and drop us a note if you have some topics, if you're inspired, if you just want to say hi, send us a message. You can also find us at thinktankof3.com. Reish, it's been so great seeing you.
You too, honey.
All right. We'll see you all next time.